Welcome to Gay It Forward, the podcast where I, Chris Lord, the hashtag worst gay, learn all about queer culture through the wise and sassy tutelage of my good friend and co-host, Jonathan James. Since there's more to queerdom than just the G in LGBTQIA+, this week we're branching out with our first guest, my good friend, Katie, who came on to talk about her experience as a trans woman. Long before either of us came out, Katie was my college roommate, and so it was incredible to get a chance to sit down and talk about the fact that we were both trying to discover our own queer identity at the exact same time and had no idea the other person was going through the same thing. So it was an amazing experience, and I had a lot of fun with it, as did Jonathan, as did Katie. So come ride the rainbow with us and enjoy.
Because Katie's here, I need to tell her a story.
Yes,
so,
please.
He's sort of not involved, but I went to a party the other day. And by the other day, I mean like 2 months ago. And I don't know what the discussion was, because I just heard it out, like, you know, when you hear that random conversation that suddenly randomly gets your attention.
That all of a sudden matters to you.
Yeah, and I suddenly hear someone go, "Who's ever heard of a beta top?" And I went, "I have!"
We're a rare
That's
breed.
amazing.
And CJ was there.
That's amazing on so many levels. On so many levels.
It's just what can I say? I'm lazy.
At least you admit that.
Accurate. Just, you know.
Power bottoms unite.
Yes, please send me your power bottoms, because I won't know what to do if I have a passive bottom.
You guys would both just sit there. You'd just be sitting on your dick. Be like, so now what?
Just reading a book.
Playing a video
you're
game.
You're going to thrust or no?
It's like, oh, did you thrust? No, I moved. Sorry, my legs are
My
getting
leg
numb.
fell asleep.
My pelvis is going numb.
Oh, Jesus.
But we do want to try and talk about things that aren't just being gay. Like, I'm learning about being gay, but you and I are both always trying to learn more about the other aspects of the queer spectrum.
Always.
And so to do so, we brought along my old friend Katie, who's genderqueer / trans. I mean, I feel like it's an evolving thing. Like, how do you describe yourself now?
It's an evolving thing. I actually recently read a webcomic that had an entire page, update, whatever, around how trans folk in general love to label things.
That surprises me.
Well, because it's comforting, because there's a level of there isn't a space for me, and the big one for me was discovering the term gender fluid. Because there was this big, and actually Chris defined this best to me years ago. It's like, I think it's a sine wave that starts like really big highs, really big lows, if you're taking that on the spectrum of male to female.
Yeah.
And then over time, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter,
it
because
settles down a little
it starts
bit,
to settle into what you are. And so that's very much been my experience as identifying originally as gender fluid, which I still identify as, but I'm okay with the word transgender now because I'm going through some certain steps towards transitioning. I understand that gender fluid is under that umbrella of trans, but then there's also, you've got agender, you have genderqueer, you have bigender. There's all of these different labels because everybody has a different experience of their gender, which also means that there's not a good umbrella term for it. But people like to have a bucket to be in because it makes them feel comforted. It makes them feel like they're not alone.
Well, and I think it's like we try so hard not to have that bucket, but like at the end of the day, like having a bucket, it allows you to have a community.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of identity.
It's like we don't like being put in boxes, but it's like at the same time, it's like if we're not in a certain box, we're not going to find people that are similar.
Well, to be fair, you and I are never in boxes.
Bitch, how do you know?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a level of, we don't want to be put in boxes that we disagree with. And I think that there's a level, or that we're predetermined for, right? I was born and I was put into the male box.
Yeah.
That box does not apply to me. That is the wrong box. So as time goes on, my box has changed, But having a box, having other people, whether they're gender fluid or other trans folk, to be able to talk to and share experiences with and learn from, is very much a comforting thing.
Yeah. Now, okay, so you just threw out a few different terms. So you said there was
like speaking another language.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
I'm pedantic.
I've been on the internet a lot.
So because you identify as gender fluid, and I think you use a phrase today actually that I thought was really helpful.
Gender fluid, or
yeah, like you describe gender fluid as like being like the bisexual version of being.
Yeah, I recently came out
spectrum.
to my brother, one of the last family members I have. Woohoo!
To come out to. Let's
to come out to.
let's
To come out to.
Yeah.
As gender fluid?
Yes.
Okay.
And gender fluid, I described to him because he had no idea what that means. Which,
Straight people.
Candidly, even LGBT people don't necessarily know
I think
that
you
is.
can intuit what that means.
Sure.
But I think if you don't have an example, if you don't have someone to talk to about what
Yeah.
the actual nuance of that are, it's kind of this broad term. You don't really know what that means. So,
Yeah, but I described it as the bi to the transgender spectrum, or to the gender spectrum, I should
So
say.
like
right?
what? So because you said gender queer, gender fluid, agender, bigender. I mean, I think agender and bigender make a little more.
Yeah,
sense.
so the interesting thing about these labels, and you can go on Facebook or OkCupid, and you'll find a list of 40 different genders that you can select and pick multiple of, whatever, demi-boy, demi-girl, all of
Which is a
these
shame
things.
because on OkCupid you'll just still get people talking to you and not get a date.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah.
But so there's all of these different labels. They mean different things to different people, but what matters is it resonates with them. For me, gender fluid resonated because it really worked with the fluidity of how I felt day to day.
Okay.
My friend Christina, who also identifies as gender fluid, identifies that way because she has no interest in doing any form of transition, but she still identifies as gender fluid, and that's perfectly fine. There's
No,
nothing
and I
wrong
know
with
tons of
it
people
meaning
like that.
different.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with different people identifying with that label in different ways. What's helpful is that label brings them comfort and lets them know that they're not alone.
So you are moving more towards the trans
Yes.
world. Okay.
Definitely.
Like what was that like thought? Did you have a hard time coming to that thought process? Like the way that like some of us have come
yeah.
to like being gay, where it's like, oh my God, I'm gay. I don't like girls.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, there is that kind of like thing of like, well, I don't feel like I am what I was born.
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. Like, how did you first kind of discover that? Because Jonathan, maybe the same for you. Like, I first started realizing I was gay when all of a sudden my porn just got increasingly gayer and gayer and gayer.
You mean not when that person took that dick out of your mouth?
Yeah. Well, then I had it was like a week later. I'm like, wait, hang on. That was nice.
I thought I was just doing a favor.
I kind
that
of
was-
liked that.
That was so nice. It was like a banana but warm.
You know what? Bananas can be warm too.
Who warms up their bananas? Like
Babies.
Who does
Babies,
that?
Chris.
What are they doing with those bananas?
There's something wrong.
That-
There's
that's like
something
that
wrong
food-
if you're eating warm bananas.
That food
I'm
is
sorry.
too big for a baby. All right, babies should not be eating food that large.
It's like pineapples on pizza. No.
No, fuck off. No, pineapple on pizza.
You're the lone one in that one.
Yeah, no, yeah.
No, you're wrong.
Let's leave her behind or get dinner.
I can eat that pizza and come in someone's mouth and it'll still be nice.
Yeah, exactly. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
No.
But no, like, but no, I think like in terms of discovering sexuality, it just comes like you just start to pick up on it. It's like
Yeah,
your
you
eyes
watch-
linger on the underwear aisle when you go to like Macy's and that sort of thing.
Spend a
But
little bit too much time there. Ask mom
Exactly.
for a certain pair of underwear that you really don't want, but you like the guy in the package, so
Yeah.
it's like fine.
yeah, and into the
Throw
back
the
of your
underwear
drawer,
away,
that goes- yeah.
save the little cardboard slip for later.
But what for you, what were those sort of like signposts, if you will, on the way? Like,
Sure.
what were those like indications that, like, especially in hindsight, like, oh, well, that was clearly indicating something.
Well, I mean, candidly, the earliest signpost for me was in the 3rd grade. I stole a skirt from the Lost and Found, and
You rebel, you.
right at my
Did you-
all
I was
Catholic
gonna say,
school.
your Catholic school. Oh my god.
Right? I stole a skirt which happened to be way too big. I actually have a scar on my thumb from this day.
From the skirt?
It was too big,
They're
so I
always
tried.
way too big.
Right?
Catholic girls.
It was too big, so I tried to cut another buttonhole, and I cut my finger open.
Catholic moms, stop making your daughter's meatball sandwiches.
Wait a minute, I'm
They don't
Italian.
need that-
Hang on, those are delicious.
Put down the angel food cake.
But so that was the first experience that I had, and that was really what kicked off a period. And I've heard that this has happened for a lot of other trans girls as well, and trans men, I'm sure, where I went through cycles of collecting and purging. So I would collect generally clothing, not always, sometimes makeup, sometimes other things, that I would be collecting and that I'd be wearing here and there. And then either one of two things would happen. One, I would have a very masculine day, talking about that sine wave, right? That gets really high on the masculine side. Be like, what the hell am I doing? And throw it all away.
Yeah.
Straight garbage, done. Or
It's like when you come to like a really dirty porn. And you're like, what the fuck am I looking at?
and you just feel shame.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck did I just? What? I found this hot five. Oh, Lord Jesus.
Yeah, right. And then all of a sudden you find yourself like, well, let's go back to that.
You're like, Lord
Yes.
Jesus.
No.
this is not. But I'm bookmarking it for later. But
Yeah.
Lord Jesus.
No, that's actually a really good description because it's exactly that. It's like, oh hell no, shit, why did I throw that away?
What was that? Let's
I
find
had that
out.
for porn for the longest time when being gay. Like, Jesus. Where do
or-
I find it again?
Yeah.
Or alternatively, my mother would find it, and she was really good at finding my hiding spaces, which is
Always fucking
which
are.
sucked. Which
Especially if they're in
sucked.
files and files and files and files and files.
What?
What?
Oh, like on your computer?
Yeah.
What was your,
'cause
what was your
porn.
parents
Sorry,
doing?
I'm
on your
thinking
like,
clothes.
they were like going through your files on your computer.
Yeah.
Were they,
My mom is a snooper.
like okay, how? Hang on. This
Go,
is,
go.
This is a
Go, by all means, by all means.
This is a tangent that requires exploring. What were you labeling things?
I would have one label for like the first one, and it would be like something like homework and stuff like that, and there
Yeah.
would be homework in there.
Yes, and then within that-
within the homework, it would be like something like PowerPoints, and then there would be PowerPoints in there.
Okay.
And then there would be like clips, and it would I'm not stupid. Like, it would be way deep in there.
No, yeah. Same.
See, I actually have a friend. Another tangent to a tangent, but
That's all we do
my friend
here.
Ian, you've met Ian.
Yes.
As
is
long as the
hilarious.
tangents are gay. What do they care?
He has on his desktop, and I think he still has this to this day. On his desktop, he has a folder that the name is definitely not porn. And if you click on that folder, it automatically logs you out of the computer, and you need a password to get back in.
Now that's genius.
I mean,
So what
really
happens is people will click
Is
on
that
his
today?
computer. Huh?
That's today.
Oh,
like now.
that's been for years.
Oh. Girl,
so
I needed him at Windows XP. Where was he?
Right?
so
I
people
needed
will
to help me hide
literally.
my AppleWorks file with saved images.
Jesus.
He has told me that people have actually clicked on that folder, gotten locked out because they were using his computer for a legitimate purpose,
Yeah.
and like, shit, Ian, what's your password? What folder were you snooping in?
That is genius. And it was also just like my first question every time my mom found my porn was like, why were you on my computer in the first place?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to download the new McAfee virus thing. I'm like, Mom, why were you on my computer?
Yeah. First, it's pronounced. Wait, how's it pronounced? Fuck, I lost it.
McAfee.
Thank you.
But anyway, and then there was also physical stuff I hid too. So it was
Yeah.
But I get that.
Yeah, so those cycles of purging. Actually, the best spot. I was really mad. I'm still mad about it to this day. But my
What outfit did you
stepbrother-in-law
lose?
found stuff that I had hidden in the. So we had these sinks that had it wasn't like a cabinet sink. It was there was a pillar and that turned into a sink.
Oh, like
right?
a basin or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then so the pillar thing hid the plumbing, the pipes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of space there. He found shit that I'd hidden in there somehow. Like, who looks there for shit?
No, how do these people find
They must
that is
go looking.
that is the question I have for straight people. How do you find these things?
I think they're
Right?
just going
And to
looking.
his credit, he's just like, oh yeah, by the way, there was I think it was a bikini. There is a bikini there. Just a heads up. And I'm like, thanks. I'm 13 years old. Thanks for that.
Well, it's interesting to hear this too because as you know, as I'm sure Chris has not fully done yet, but looking back at when you were a kid and seeing how gay you were,
Oh.
I used to use my blankets to dress up in drag. So it's very interesting to hear sort of like, because your story is not unsimilar to
Sure.
stuff I've heard a lot of gay men go
Yeah.
through, of like hiding mom's makeup, hiding heels, hiding like and stuff like that. So I guess
God, what I would have given to have a sister.
Yeah.
God.
Unless you would have been so pissed because stuff would just keep going missing.
Forever, too.
Yeah.
So I guess my question then is just like, when did you realize like, oh, I feel like I am the wrong gender? Because that's the thing that always sort of intrigues me is that like I definitely feel like male and I like the male gender and like I like being male. But like the thought of like me feeling female is something that both intrigues me and then like I can't describe. So it's like where did that come in?
It honestly is something that took a long time to realize. Like, it started, like I said, in the 3rd grade with, I want to wear a skirt. Why do the girls get to wear a skirt? I don't like, right? And that evolved into different things. I remember the countless different ways that I used to try and express things because I didn't know. I had no idea where I fell. The internet, very helpful, as Steve Rogers said in the movie.
True.
Yeah.
And, you know, I actually found in high school, while at school, God help me, I found a website.
At Catholic school.
At my all boys Catholic school.
Well, that sounds fun.
I'm glad you are still here.
I was a good little Catholic boy. It's actually terrifying now. But I found a website that is still up and hasn't been updated probably since then, but it's TGFA, Transgendered Fiction Archive.
You're lucky because the one that I started hooking up with guys with no longer sort of exists. So I didn't do the chat room thing like this one probably did.
Probably.
No, what? Again, I came to this quite late. Like, there was basically... By the time I was actively going out and trying to hook up with guys, Grindr was already a thing.
Oh, well.
So despite the
Late
fact
bloomers.
that I'm old-ish, like, I'm...
coming
Wait a
out
minute, I'm
years.
older than you. You're young. You're young. Very young.
You know, I'm a gaby. No, I'm like a gay toddler. We'll figure this out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always had Grindr.
That's
Mine was on it was a magazine website called xy.com. And not a lot of people remember it. But it was like one of the very first, like, post your picture, post your stats, like, and then talk to people.
Sure.
And it was like one of the first hookup sites I remember. And like, it's weird because like a lot of people I've talked to that are my age are like, oh yeah, chat rooms. I was like, oh no, like I definitely like posted a photo and, you know, not raunchily.
definitely raunchily. Definitely raunchily.
Yeah.
Crudely edited out my like homecoming dates.
Some elaborate
My
cropping.
little twink self.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
You know, on Windows like probably
Paint.
98.
Yeah, it's
98.
like, whose polished nails are those on your shoulder? No one's.
Oh man. But yeah, so I found this site which had literally just stories of candidly generally a genre of fiction. I've actually never talked to anybody about this. A genre of
Real dish.
fan fiction that very quickly bleeds into erotic fiction called forced feminization.
Okay.
And a lot of these stories were what's the best one? The best one is a guy cross-dresses to try out for the cheerleading team so he can go on the retreat with his girlfriend.
Okay.
She doesn't get a spot. He does. His parents find out. They make him go the whole 9 yards. So he has breast implants. He has a non-surgical way to hide, you know, down low, which I don't really know. That's not actually physically possible, but I was 13.
Is it weird that I'm already writing like the John Hughes script for this?
Chris is face palming for the record.
I mean,
I can already see the John Hughes movie of this.
I like that you picked John Hughes, but I think the problem with picking John Hughes is you'd have to have like horrible sexism and misogyny in there.
We'll upgrade him.
To be fair,
He's dead. We'll
to be
upgrade
fair,
him.
this is the early 2000s. There was a lot of misogyny.
Oh, yeah.
Misogyny and
misogyny's
sexism.
dead, girl? No, okay.
Yeah.
I did not say that. I just said
Yeah.
it was worse in the 80s.
So I discovered these fiction sites, and I'm like, I kind of like that. I like that idea. And I went to an all boys Catholic school. Across the parking lot was the all girls Catholic school. Like literally, we shared classes.
Okay.
I had many times where I'm like, I kind of want to wear the girls' uniform, which was literally a khaki skirt and a polo.
Yeah.
I'm still friends with a lot of my people from high school, including my friend Carrie, who now, as a lesbian woman, hated that uniform, which is hilarious.
I feel like Catholic schools do the opposite because most of the gays I meet went to a Catholic all boys or all girls school.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe it.
You're not really doing what you think you're doing.
My youth group,
you're not helping.
Sister Mary Catherine.
my youth group, I mentioned that I was like a good little Catholic boy. I taught youth group. I was a counselor at retreats. The group I was a part of, there has been, to my knowledge, at least 2 girls that came out as lesbian, 1 gay person, and myself as trans, out of a group of maybe 15 people. And that's just what, that's just people who are out and are obviously out that I'm still like in touch with.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a little bit of a moment going on there.
Something in the water.
No, but that's, I feel like I can.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
I feel like Catholic school is like the big kind of hub for a lot of gays.
It does seem to be true. Yeah.
I think what in my limited experience with Catholic LGBT folk is because it's so heavily repressed there. I think you get bigger swings.
Yeah.
Right? You don't get somebody
Yeah.
that's gradually
I did
gradually
public
comes out in
school.
high school. Although my friend Carrie actually came out in high school, and she is a saint. She's amazing.
Yeah, that would not be easy.
No, God no.
Came out in junior high.
You came out in junior high? Mm-hmm. Oh, fuck, I didn't know that.
Damn.
Oh, shit.
Fair enough. But like, for me, I went to Catholic grade school. I went to Catholic high school. I went to like Jesuit Catholic college. Like, there was a lot of this isn't okay in what I was taught growing up, not just from school or parents or what have you, but just everything all at once. So when I graduated and I started to really become myself, it was like, oh. And so the swing was huge. There was I stole this from How I Met Your Mother, but huge overcorrection. Where I bought the girliest shit that I would never wear ever. But it was but it was what I needed at that point.
But
I
you
needed
loved
that
it,
over
and that's what you need. Yeah.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love some girly shit.
Oh, trust me. The moment I got to college and had no parents, like, could have just gotten a tram that said "Enter here."
I have a question for you.
Shocked you don't.
I have a question for you, Chris.
Oh, balls. Yeah.
I'm a lady. Ass face.
Well, if that's true, then the lady is a tramp. But
Exactly.
you may continue.
That was well done. I know the answer to this. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. But I'm going to use this as a did you know moment. I had a stash in college.
What? You did?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I had a
Wait. But this also answers. I have a question about this.
Yeah.
What was your stash?
ooh, yeah, that's a good question. And
Because
where
like I
was
know
the
what his stash would be.
I don't remember specifics, but stuff that I had bought generally at thrift stores because it was cheap and I was in college. But couple skirts, dresses, things like that. Usually very girly stuff.
So your stash was clothes.
Generally clothes, sometimes makeup. Generally, that's the type of stuff.
Can I ask a little bit of an impeding question?
Go for it.
What gender are you attracted to?
I'm attracted to women.
Okay.
I'm a transgender and lesbian.
Only because like I sometimes sadly find like there like are very hot trans men that
Yeah.
are vastly into women.
Sure.
And which is fine, but I'm also kind of a little bit like offended by that. I'm like, you're part of the gay community. Why are you into me? But like so like that's actually always my question because it goes so many ways. It's like I've met trans people that are men who like men. I've met trans people who are women who like women. I've
Absolutely.
met trans people who are women who like men and vice versa.
This is what gets interesting because a lot of people, in particular in the straight community, but even in the LGBT community, don't understand the difference between the gender spectrum and the sexuality spectrum.
Yeah.
They're both spectrums. you hear a lot of the similar or same terms, but they're completely different. I am into women. John Barrowman aside, there are very few men that I would be into.
Isn't everybody attracted to John Barrowman?
Everybody is attracted to John Barrowman. Captain Jack
not.
Harkness, let's go.
I know who it is. I'm actually not.
Okay, you're wrong.
So we can just talk the two of us.
We'll just talk over here.
Yeah.
That is one thing that I have never really questioned. Although, there was a moment where, well, if I'm a woman, am I interested in guys? Am I straight? And that's where it kind of gets a little kludgy because, yes, there are the two spectrums, but as a transgender woman, especially when I was identified exclusively as gender fluid, well, am I straight or am I lesbian?
Okay.
I didn't know the answer to that.
I also have, and I apologize that this may be a little offensive question, but this is also a question that I get because, like, I'll go to family dinners and be like the defendant of it.
Yeah.
And this is the
you
thing.
are the representative of all queerdom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Of course.
I go to family dinners. I am representative of the LGBTQIA and plus. Doesn't matter which one. And I was
so what you're saying is that you represent the penis guild? The penis guild. Sorry.
I got your Wizard of Oz reference.
Oh, that's what that was?
Oh, honey.
What?
Yes,
I didn't.
Lollipop Guild.
Well, yeah, it was too obtuse.
You have said that to me for 11 years.
Obtuse.
See? Proof. 11 years you've told me I'm obtuse. It's not a thing.
It's okay. I mean, slightly more context here. So Katie and I have known each other for 11 years because we were college roommates. Obviously, I did not know it was Katie at the time because neither of us were out.
Yeah.
Hang on. Where was your stash? I haven't had a chance to ask this question. Where was this hiding in the dorm?
So my stash was...
Chris wasn't looking for it because he was trying to get that sweet college ass.
I could tell stories, but I'll wait till we're not recording anymore.
I was still trying to get women at this time.
That's true. Again, I'll wait until we're not recording for a couple of those stories. But
I cannot wait.
My stash was in my closet. Very simply, it was either
Just
behind
like Chris at the time.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
And me.
They were big closets. It was very convenient.
They were great closets.
Yeah.
Although you always took the better one.
Yeah.
As a gay man does. Jesus.
Right. It was my junior and senior year was behind my hockey bag because I knew there's not a chance in hell you'd go anywhere near there.
Why would I ever go in your closet?
Because I was a paranoid little trans egg.
Oh, okay.
Because when you come out early or know early of something, like, people snoop for fucking fucking reason.
No fucking reason at all.
No goddamn reason.
Well, okay, I guess that's fair because, like, as someone who also had stuff in his closet,
So someone who was looking for women, you could be that straight douche who was like, I think my roommates are queer. Let's look in her closet and find what she has.
okay. Also, can we just point out that redneck stereotype would not be using like feminine pronouns to describe another man? Like that's where your whole system falls apart very quickly.
Kinda does.
Sorry that my redneck personality is woke.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I think your redneck personality is confused. They should call me. But of course, you had no idea. We didn't know.
We had no idea. I was honestly, God, I was shocked when you came out to me.
A lot of people have said that. Yeah,
I was absolutely for it. I was honored that you were comfortable enough to.
Well, if I recall, when I came out to you, I was quite drunk, which was a pretty common occurrence at the time.
I think it was for me too when I started. Yeah,
well,
true. It was for me when I started coming out to people though as well.
I don't know what you're talking about. Oh.
See, I used the grapevine. Whereas, like, I had gossipy enough family and friends where I knew who to tell. Because it kept me from exhausting myself.
It's a lot.
I believe it.
So I told my mom, and then literally every week, and my mom still denies this, but I still remember it clear as day. Like, I told her, I'm like, don't tell anyone else. Knowing in my head, I'm like, she's gonna fucking tell everyone. And my mom is also, like, an identical twin. And which I prefaces. Then, week after week came, I told your aunt, I hope that's fine. But she's my twin. It's fine.
She's my twin. She already knew.
I told our hairdresser. I
Yeah.
hope that's fine. I told your grandma. And actually,
I told the pharmacist.
the angriest response I ever got was from my grandma because I was just in the car and she slammed the hood of the car and went, "I cannot believe you did not tell me first." I went,
I want your
Granny's
family.
got gumption.
this is a quarter of my family.
Okay, I want that quarter of your family.
Yeah, so you can have that quarter. That quarter is fantastic. You do not want the rest. The rest is
Fair.
a long story. We won't go into it now, but that was
Fair.
sort of mine.
Fair.
Podcast from another time.
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, but so you had
Chris walked out of your closet flaming and
But yeah, you didn't know that I was also in the closet, so like you would have no reason to, because like me being a secretive person, obviously I don't snoop in other people's shit.
Sure.
But you had no reason to know that, so you had a secret stash.
I had a
like,
secret stash.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so I mean this is relevant. Like, I mean, how did you find ways of kind of expressing your femininity and indulging that side of you in an environment like a college dorm, where as far as you know, you had a straight roommate that you were trying to hide this from?
It was a challenge. I mean, there were times.
sorry, straight roommate really made me laugh.
I know, yeah. What a crazy fucking concept. But
It was a challenge. I mean, one of the nice things is that we were obviously very close. So
Yeah.
I don't think I'm stretching when I say we were best friends, and we
Yeah.
still are.
Yeah.
So I knew your schedule pretty damn well.
that's true. I'm a very scheduled person.
Yeah, especially because.
Like
know,
down to when I go to the bathroom. Like it's all very meticulously
I
planned out in
remember
advance.
that. I forgot about that.
She is the only one that I know that
I
has
for-
a black fucking book for her dick appointments. Like, goddamn.
It's for
I-
health purposes. I can
I
look back
forgot
and go,
about
who-
that. No, but
who,
that's
what,
true.
and when.
There was a pee schedule, not like written down like Big Bang Theory, but you were on a pee schedule. You were peed at the same time every freaking night.
He's the only one where I'm like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, I actually have a dick appointment now. Like, can I call you in like an hour?
Can I call you in 15 minutes?
Actually, I'm confused at what you do in both, because if you're a beta top, like, I feel like it's the bottom's job to make sure how long you
it's
last.
not. Yeah,
so.
that's not under your control if you're a beta.
But what? What? I'm so confused.
It's fine.
It's don't worry about it.
Sorry, guys. There's a butterfly that flew past and I got distracted.
But if so.
Okay, so
I knew your
you were like-
schedule really well.
And also, when we went to college 15 minutes from where I grew up, so I would be home a lot as well.
Exactly.
But at the same time, like that meant that you never actually knew if I was going to be around or not, because I could just fuck off for half a day and come back.
Yeah,
He was probably fucking some guy.
Probably.
Actually.
No, I
no, he
didn't
wasn't.
fuck any
I
guys
actually
in
know for a
college.
fact he wasn't.
No.
Did you say that under oath?
Yes.
So-
yes, I can tell you the first guy that I hooked up with. Actually.
God, you missed out. You missed out on gay college.
Fuck, I'm
Don't-
aware of that fact.
Don't. I missed out on queer college.
I mean, it's
too.
fine.
I'm sad.
I'm basically
But
living
like,
gay college
but
now.
like, I give you credit. Like, you had a lot more to go through. Like, he could have gotten some quarterback dick that he did not.
we did not
get.
have a football team.
We didn't have a football team. That's actually a very sore subject for Santa Clara people.
Yeah, I could have gotten some
Baseball, basketball,
I mean, baseball more so than basketball.
water
You
polo.
could have gotten
water polo dick.
is the
Water
shit.
polo dick.
Where are they?
You want questionable dick, water polo, and swim.
Where are they?
That was me. That was me.
I was
high school.
diving. High school diving.
Yes.
Okay, so you had your stash.
Yep.
You would like find time when I was gone to express yourself. Like, what did that entail?
I mean, generally there was a lot of just dressing up.
Okay.
But the bigger thing for me, and you actually might remember a bit of this, and this was part accurate, part just me, my brain never shutting off. I have like insomnia. I don't go to bed early.
Yes, this I know.
And I'm sure you remember many nights where I was awake and on my computer or whatever.
Yeah, and I'd be asleep at like 9 p.m.
Well, it's because you're old.
So he was always an old man.
He was always an old man.
Good to know.
He
No, I'm just
dreams
catching
of
up with
being an
myself.
old man.
No, I'm like my dream is now to be just a grandmother.
Catching
like,
up with
that's
what? What are you catching up with?
getting older. Like I'm catching up with myself.
What were you dreaming about being gay when you were 12?
No, I was
Well,
just,
exactly.
He was
so you're
dreaming
not
about
catching up.
He was dreaming about being old though.
yeah. I've always wanted to be old.
But the internet.
You are like the only gay that has ever said that in history. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
That's
please
because he's
continue.
weird. That's because he's weird.
yeah.
But the internet. I was whenever I was up later than you and just in my bunk because we had lofted beds. Whenever I was always the top.
Ironically.
Also not
Because
surprising.
that would make me the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I picked up what you were putting down. I paused because I hadn't thought of it that way before.
Well, also, if she's trans, technically,
Yeah, technically you would
you're
still be
still
a top.
lazy
Yeah.
top. Just pointing that out there.
Yeah, that's accurate. That's accurate.
If a train leaves Seattle at 12 p.m. going 35 miles an hour, Chris is still a lazy top.
Shut up, engineer.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is why I'm his gay teacher. I can just see these.
Clearly.
Doesn't matter what we're talking about, Chris is still a lazy top.
But I was
my argument.
but I was on the internet.
Finally, Your Honor.
I was researching things. I was on TGFA sometimes, although that died while I was in high school, so I wasn't on that a lot. I was learning. I was researching. I was reading up on different things. I was discovering interesting, in some cases, parts of the internet, some of which should never be seen.
Girl, I know.
But others of which were super helpful to me. And I discovered all sorts of different things. I discovered a spot in San Jose that caters to trans women or cross-dressers, depending on how you personally identify.
So-
Yeah.
I'm sorry to stop you for that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
this is the question I get most often.
Yes.
Is what is the difference from a transgendered person
Yep.
from like a cross-dresser or as
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good
and I
question.
apologize, but as straight people put it, and sometimes my stepfather, a tranny.
Okay. So
yeah.
I'm gonna tackle that in order of simplicity.
Okay.
Because that's stuff that I feel like needs to be said.
Yeah.
Sure. Transgender person is somebody who identifies as the other gender. I identify as female, which means that doesn't mean that surgeries are happening. That doesn't mean that a transition is even happening. But there is, and this actually recently came out in a study, there's actual chemistry behind this. There is the brain of a transgender person mirrors the brain of a cisgender person of their identified gender. So if somebody was to scan my brain, I would not show up with a male brain. I would show as having a female brain, which is fascinating in and of itself. So that's where you get transgender is something went wrong, candidly, in the biological process. Something went right.
I mean, I
it's-
don't think that. I think that like psychology is. I think that we put too much stuff in right and wrong because
Sure.
we live in Anglo-Christian society, and I think psychology is vastly in the human brain.
You're right. That
Well,
was
so
that was
I
going
don't-
too
well,
far.
I mean, yeah, but
Some
like-
so wires got crossed. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yes.
Wires got crossed. The physical biology didn't match.
You were referring to wrong in like the objective perspective of it, like the
Yes.
subjective. It's
Yeah.
not like you're
Yes,
putting.
yes,
you're
yes,
not
yes, yes.
putting
No, I
a
just-
quality.
and
But
I-
yeah, I get. Yeah, I get.
I just
Yes.
wanted to put that out
But-
there. Like,
but no, but, like-
psychology is.
Yes.
I love psychology, so it's like that's why it's like.
Well, and it's important to point out these sort of terminologies because it's like the same reason why we now say like cisgender rather than like normal, for example.
Sure.
Because the whole idea
Yeah.
is that you are by default implying if something is wrong or different. But yes, exactly.
You're
That-
100%. Some
things went
wires got crossed
awry,
Things
or
went
yes.
different than the. I don't want to say standard because that's also wrong.
Yeah.
Things went different from the majority.
the default.
The default, sure.
Yeah.
So that's where you have transgender is I am uncomfortable with a male body. That's why I'm on certain drugs that I'm on. That's why I'm going through steps that I'm going through. A crossdresser, from my understanding, and not being one, I don't know. I can't speak for everyone. But a crossdresser, the difference is generally they do not identify as the other gender.
Yeah.
They are male.
okay.
They identify as male. They, for a multitude of reasons, want to either dress as female or present as female, etc.
I think the harder part is like, and the other question I've got is like, well, what's the difference between that and a drag queen? And
Sure.
drag queen is more very performance based.
Yeah, it's theatrical.
And honestly, I found like a tranny is more of like a guy who just out of the sheer a male who identifies as male out of the sheer enjoyment of it likes wearing like women's underwear and stuff like that. It's not necessarily like he identifies, but he gets.
So I would change that up a little bit.
Please do.
So sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
So I would categorize that type of stuff under crossdresser. That's how I would do it. Again,
Okay.
Well, and then
I can't speak for everybody.
so-
The reason that I very specifically do that. So tranny is a abbreviation of generally transvestite or something like that.
Yes.
That is considered a derogatory term.
Yes.
And that is a negative term. It's up there with a lot of other things. The porn industry, for example, uses she-male a lot. These are terms that
I remember that being deleted from RuPaul.
yeah. So that these are.
I know because you've never watched it. You drag queen fanatic.
You've never mind.
We'll get to that later. I'm glad someone else is as shocked as I am.
So I would, and again, this is all my personal opinion, but I would generally say
I think
that
it's very valid, especially coming from someone who is trans.
Well, what I would say is what people consider to be that, or those terms, is candidly transgender, or maybe even maybe cross-dressers, but it generally is transgender. But they are terms that came from ignorance, and they're terms that are derogatory in nature. I've actually experienced from my own family, from somebody who is extremely supportive of me personally, but prior to me coming out, used to use the term he, she. Which is, again,
well, it's
don't do that.
And that's derogatory to you as a tranny, and also intersex. Because
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't understand what intersex is. And intersex is that you are born with both genitalia. And you basically are... Most parents will choose the gender for their child. So a lot of times, like, that is...
House had a great episode on that, actually.
As did the Orva, weirdly enough.
But did they ask if it was lupus first?
It's never lupus.
Except for the one time.
I mean, no.
The one time it was lupus.
Except for the one time it was lupus. Also, he just stores his Vicodin in lupus textbook. So
forgive me for using a kind of obvious reference, but like I think most people's pop culture under like exposure to trans would be like fucking Rocky Horror and like transvestite.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So from your perspective, like Frankenfurter, that character is trans. Okay. There you go.
Well,
but transvestite is not a word we use anymore. It's an archaic terminology.
That is what exactly. That is something where I would say the times have moved on. Transvestite at one point was the actual term for transgender,
but did it just accrue like a negative association over time? Yeah, okay.
And I think that's why I can watch Rocky Horror and I can listen to the song "Sweet Transvestite" and I don't get upset by it because it's not something that was. It's not intended to be a derogatory thing.
Right.
And intention means a lot. I know there are a lot of people on the internet that get very easily offended by things. Generally, I'm not one of them because I try and look at intent behind things, and a lot of the time it's ignorance.
Yeah.
Well, and I personally have noticed that like obviously we are dealing, especially now, more than probably back then, we are dealing more with the spectrum of gender than we have ever been.
Absolutely.
So back then it's like, okay, well, if you're gay, you're a homo. If you're a female gay, you're a lesbian. And then if you dress up in women's clothes, you're a transvestite. So it's like, I feel like now we recognize that it's more tied to gender and sort of how we identify even gender as
we understand the nuance of it. I think, if anything, that character now, in looking at it in hindsight, that's basically a drag character that was labeled as a transvestite.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, all you have to do, and this is something that I did growing up, all you have to do is look at cartoons. Cartoons for kids.
Are you going to reference him?
No.
What's him?
Oh, God.
What?
Powerpuff Girls.
Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, yeah, I never watched that.
But if you look at, and him to an extent, actually, now that I think about it, but like, it was a punchline.
Yes.
A male main character turned into a girl was a punchline. It happened. I can name examples. It happened in
If I can say why I think it was made a thing is that like I'm only saying this because like I watched it with director's commentary.
Sure.
But I bought Silence of the Lambs on Criterion, because I'm fancy.
Ooh.
And they had an entire thing of they're like, well, this is not what it is today. And actually, like, the director felt a little bit sorry because he's like, I feel like a lot of trans people get sort of identified with Buffalo Bill, and they shouldn't be, because it's like, you know, he does the tuck and he does the dance and he like wants to be a woman, and that's sort of like, it makes it scary, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But like, it's not scary. It's like everyone I've known that is trans, female to male, male to female, has been incredibly lovely. You know, like, and it's just, I don't understand why people are so scared of it.
Well, I mean, I think, and
I'm also not ignorant.
well, yeah, I mean, we're also not ignorant. And
Kentucky.
Katie, I'm sure you know more about this than I do, but like, that's also one of like this horrible misconceptions, like this idea of like, oh, like, you know, transgender people are the like perpetrators of crimes, like any sort of like sexual crimes, when by
dear Lord,
far
I
and
could
large
go
they are
on
the
forever
they are
on
the
this.
victims of crimes.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the bathroom thing comes up a lot, and the bathroom thing is, I think, best associated with. I saw a comic somewhere. I have no idea where. Sorry, whoever you or the artist is, but I wish I could give you credit. But it's an image of a trans person standing between the two standard bathroom doors, the male and the female. And you have the standard, like the circle and the triangle or whatever, and then beneath it, underneath the male side, it says "get beat up." Underside the women's side, it says "get yelled at."
Yeah.
Because there is a very negative side to that. I experienced that recently. I was telling Chris earlier. Last weekend, I was in San Francisco, which is a very open place to be. And I woke up after, going out and having fun, and I was presenting female, and I went to Target because I needed to go to Target, and I needed to use the restroom. And it was one of the first times, because I've generally just stuck with the male restroom because it's simpler, it's easier. But it was a time in which I was presenting fairly female.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't in a male mode. I wasn't in an androgynous mode. I was fairly female, so I didn't know what to do. And fortunately, they had a family restroom, which is what a lot of trans folks will end up using. It's what a lot of clubs in WeHo have, in fact, or a gender neutral room.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of anxiety. I've been very fortunate that I've been very rarely subject to this, but there's a ton of anxiety around restrooms because there's so much baggage behind it. There's the box that we were talking about earlier. You have to put yourself in a box. So if you're not male or female, what if you're agender or bigender or one of these other things, and you don't identify as one or the other? You're both, you're neither, what have you. Where do I go? At the end of the day, I just gotta pee. I just want to pee in peace.
My favorite is like, we don't care what you are, just wash your hands, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's one of those things where anxiety amongst the trans community is massive. I actually just recently joined a Discord community for a trans gaming organization. I'm a big gamer. I stream video games. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And this is a Discord group for of other trans folk, male, female, whatever, that both game or stream, or in some cases are just looking for help and advice.
Yeah.
Some are eggs or baby trans, some have transitioned years ago and are just part of the community. And the thing that it keeps coming back to, there's a venting thread, there's a transition help thread. It comes back in a lot of ways to anxiety whenever we're talking about the world today, whether that's the restrooms thing, whether that's certain things that the current administration are talking about, whether that is just going out and not, quote unquote, passing, which is a whole nother issue, passing versus presenting and all that. But there's so much anxiety because it's safety at the end of the day. Trans people are by far attacked the most.
Yes.
They have the highest suicide rate that there is. There's so much mental anguish that comes with it. And I've been very fortunate that I haven't had these issues.
Yeah.
But there's so much mental anguish that comes with the connotations that come with being trans. And one of the things that I personally look at is the rest of the LGBT community. I've mentioned to Chris numerous times that, seeing his journey of coming out and eventually learning about
Very slowly.
We're trying.
gay
Yeah.
culture.
I am
I know.
trying.
Please
am
continue.
trying.
Please continue with that. But how he's learned about gay culture, but more importantly, how much happier he is out of the closet and how much happier he is in LA. Seeing that and having that as a resource for me to look at has made my coming out story and my experience so much simpler, because I know that there's grass on the other side of that.
And at the same time though, like, as putting that as a gay man and even as a trans person, like, I hate to say it, but even at its least greatest point for you, like, we're in California, we have it. As
Oh
LGBT,
my God,
we
I
have
can't
it,
see-
Yeah.
we have it good.
Yeah.
we have it
Like-
amazing.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it. It's like, we were talking about earlier, like, you often come down to LA because it's a place where we know, both of us know, that you can be safe being yourself. And, like, I mean, there have been times, even in WeHo, where, like, you can pick up on, like, a little bit of friction from some of the more close-minded
Sure.
gay
Because
men.
more
And-
straight people are coming there too.
yeah, but I mean, let's also not, completely deflect away from that. Even just cis gay men
No,
have an
that's
issue with
true.
this
Very
sometimes
true.
too, and like, and that's where I picked up on some of that too. But by and large, though, like, we can be in WeHo and it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
You can present however you want to present.
Yeah.
You can be yourself. It's not an issue, and we're lucky we have that here. And like, even how much like it is like actively welcoming here compared to, like, I would say, like, more like passively welcoming back up home.
Oh,
Which is
absolutely.
still a huge improvement off of, like, passively unwelcoming, or especially actively unwelcoming and, like,
And
actually
then there
antagonistic.
are still people.
Absolutely.
There are still people, even gay or trans, in places like the southern Bible Belt that
Yeah.
get beat up, and
Yeah.
like, trans people are killed more so every day than gay men, African American men, like, so on and so forth. But, like, no one gives a shit because people just call them cross dressers and, like, leave it as that.
Yeah.
In particular, trans people of color.
Yeah.
The murder rate and the assault rate is astronomical. And an example that gets brought up a lot is there was a CSI episode, and this was easily 15 years ago, but there was a CSI episode of a trans woman who was the culprit of a crime. And it's amazing how one little thing like that can influence people.
Yeah, like you said, Buffalo Bill, right? I mean,
Buffalo Bill,
Yeah.
Fairly
People
Odd
think-
Parents
people
had an
think that-
episode around
Well, I mean,
it.
Yeah.
fucking Psycho. At the end of the day, I mean, he's not trans, but there,
dresses in
But
his
yeah, I
mother's
mean,
clothes.
there's
So it's
some,
like,
some
it's-
gender ambiguity to that character.
we can
and
even-
they're associated with
Horrified
violence.
to a certain extent that should not be these days.
Yeah,
We can even go even more recent with The Dark Knight and the Joker coming out in the nurse's outfit,
Yeah.
yeah,
right? There's pieces of this that are ingrained throughout society today that unfortunately put a connotation on the trans community.
yeah.
Which, not calling any of you out, but it's funny because, like, it's always weird to me. So I took a human sexuality class
Sure.
in college, and there was one where we discussed, like, erotica in general.
Yep.
Like, the history of erotica. Very nice gay Anglo-Saxon, or not, what is it? God, I forget. He was a priest, but he was for, like, the least Christian part of, like, Christianity.
Okay, like one of the Protestant branches
Yeah,
or whatever.
starts with an A. I can't think of it.
No, that's not
agnostic,
Christian.
not-
I know this. Hang on.
Anglican?
Anglican.
Anglican,
There we go.
yes.
He was an Anglican priest.
I should know from my Catholic upbringing,
Yeah, I was
and I'm
like,
supposed to hate them.
Am I the one who threw that out there? Like,
But we went through an entire thing of, like, erotica and the history of porn. And it's funny that the two most hated things, at least in America, and that people rag on people in America for, and this is including straight men, as I'm saying this in the mic, is that the two most popular forms of straight porn are trans and obese.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 And yet, like, and because we're in such a society that, like, represses sexuality, it's like, of course, because they're the most popular, people like those, and then
Well, I mean that's part of the problem is that our culture is in general more on the repressed side, and it also it tends to demonize things in a way that is not fruitful. It's not helpful because
well, let's take experiences that I'm going to go out on a limb based off of what you've said that you may have had growing up looking at gay porn, right? I'm like, let me ask you these questions. Was that something where at any point where you might have looked at gay porn and then I forget who said it earlier, but that was
probably me.
Yeah.
But that was something where, okay, that's why did I do that? Whatever, but I'm gonna bookmark it.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right, that would
yeah,
be me.
it's-
But
I bookmark fucking everything.
but
No
I'm
wonder
gonna
parents
put
found
you know
things.
that's not me. But I might find myself on that site in a couple days
Yeah.
or tomorrow night, depending on where you're at. Like there's
Yeah.
definitely huge and. To your point of the trans porn industry is huge.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely huge because there's a desire for that. A desire for that.
Well, and I hate like, and it sounds really offensive, and I apologize for saying this, but like, I think that it's huge because there is this whole, and it's the thing that like I hear all of my trans friends say. There is this huge question thing of like everyone is like, what does their junk look like?
Ah, yes. Okay.
And that is the thing is like, and I feel like that's also why it's such a huge thing is like I feel like a certain degree jack off to it, and then like I feel like there's a certain degree of that watch out of curiosity because like people always, and it's always the most offensive thing to ask trans people is like, well, what do you got going on down there?
There is
Yeah.
an obsession with it. There's an obsession with what is, well, are you going to get the surgery? Are you going to do, are you
Get
going
the
to
snip.
Are you going to cut
Right.
it off? Things like that. And it's candidly none of your fucking business.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
is generally
It's
the
not.
answer to that. But the question behind that I always have is, well, where the fuck are we in society that's an okay question?
Yeah.
I don't go up to Chris when I see him after having not seen him. Hey, Chris, how's your penis?
Well, that's only because I'm just actively talking about it all the time.
That's also true, but I already
I
already
will
know.
also vouch for that. Like that's like it's.
I already know these things, but
It's doing great, by the way.
I'm sure.
Those sores are not anything to be worried about.
No, that'll clear up in a matter of weeks.
Yeah, a couple pills.
Penicillin's a hell of a thing.
But
I'm allergic to that. Fuck my life.
but people go insane because for trans folk, and this is on national interviews on TV.
Yeah.
People will ask questions around genitals, and it's. Why is that okay? You wouldn't ask that of any other guest.
Well, and this is the thing that like bugs me about society today is that we're like, well, abortion is wrong because they kill babies, but God, whatever happens to them outside of the womb, well, they're on their own. Like, we're not a sexual society. You're trans. What are your genitals like?
Yeah.
Like, tell us how you have sex.
Oh,
I want to know all of that. Like, please.
Absolutely.
Like, it makes no sense to me.
You bring up the abortion angle. I had on a dating site recently. I told Chris this yesterday. I had a dating site the other day. Somebody sent me a message that says your parents should have shot you at birth.
I'm sorry.
I
just want to say I am sorry.
I appreciate that. At the end of the day, I'm not worried about it. The internet is full of trolls. I know that. I'm a gamer of all things. I definitely know that there are a lot of trolls out there.
I mean, there's lots of trolls and lots of 12-year-olds saying "fuck you." Like,
oh, I call them out on my stream. It's fun. They get really sorry really fast.
Yeah.
Would your mother kiss you with your back out? God, this
Like, no, but I'd fuck your father with it.
See, that's what I want to start doing. I'm gonna start doing that on like Call of Duty.
That's brilliant.
Like, does your father talk that dirty? Because I really have something he needs to see.
Yeah.
Like
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
That's fucking
I'm gonna start fucking
brilliant.
doing that.
I
You
love
call
it.
him dad, I call him daddy.
Yeah.
And I call him on Saturday
I'm
mornings.
gonna start scarring the foul-mouthed 12-year-olds.
So much, yes. But you have like that level of that you have the trolls. Like I had that experience. I don't care. I move on. I'm mentally in a place where that doesn't matter to me. But you definitely have that level of, wait, the people who generally say that have similar beliefs to people who say, oh, well, it's a life. You can't end that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into my own beliefs around any of that right now.
Yeah,
but
we could have a long conversation about
we
this,
could have
the
a whole
hypocrisy
podcast
of
about that. But there's a hypocrisy around that. That's, well, at what point do you stop caring? Because you care till birth. Do you care, what is it, 3 years, 6 years, 18 years?
Well, and this is the kind of philosophy that I have adopted as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more comfortable with myself, comfortable being gay, which is that like that kind of the key to everything comes down to empathy. And to get access to that empathy, you actually have to understand somebody. And like this is literally the very reason why we wanted to have you come on and talk about this, because there's tons of stuff that you and I don't know as people who are, well, as one person who's pretty well informed about the queer culture.
Well, and it's incredibly
me,
complicated because like even being further along than you, I've met trans people, but I for myself, to be completely honest, like my fear has always been asking the questions. Yeah. Because I have the insensitive questions. And then and it's stuff like when Caitlyn Jenner did her transition, suddenly I had my entire family be like, what is trans? How does that do? And I'm like, I don't.
Well, exactly.
I'm gay.
Yeah, you
I still
become
take dick.
Yeah,
I don't know what to tell you.
Like we said, you become the ambassador of all queerness, and it's something that you just don't have like a direct knowledge of. And it's curious, interesting you bring up Caitlyn Jenner because Katie, I was going to ask you I mean,
because she's awful.
Not about Caitlyn Jenner specifically, but that representation is a huge part of getting that sort of understanding and developing that kind of empathy. And that shows like Will and Grace or Modern Family were huge in putting gay characters in the homes of millions of people across the United States and across the world, and helped develop the understanding, eventually empathy and that sort of acceptance.
But this is why I'm grateful about Pose, is that Pose actually addresses that.
Right, and so that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, we can look at gay public figures, actors, characters, and both being cis white gay men, we have a lot of those in a way. But I mean, for you, where would you find, where have you found the representation, or where did you find that sort of inspiration as you were growing up? Because there's just not that many trans characters. I mean, there are now, but even then, there's still few and far between.
Yeah, and I think that's a big question right now. I mean, Scarlett Johansson just got into a lot of trouble over this.
And by the way, all the memes that come after that,
and rightly so. And rightly so.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it was YouTube. YouTube has an incredible trans community. It's scary. One, because a lot of these people who transition and document it on YouTube, their transition is incredible. Oh my God, they look amazing.
It's always so interesting to me because I find, and not even in a trans sense, but even as a gay man and growing in my gayness, finding out kinks and stuff, finding the different social media that people use, is it's very interesting.
Sure.
So it's I can understand how that's a thing of them sharing transition stories on YouTube. Yeah. Where it's me doing pup play and stuff like that. Instagram has been the thing.
Absolutely.
I didn't meet any pups until I started doing Instagram. Oh my God.
But you have to find that weird niche space.
Yeah. It's I mean, if we're talking in industry terms, you have to find where your niche audience is. And
absolutely.
These days, everything is a niche audience.
Yeah.
And they all have spaces.
Yeah, well, I mean, YouTube is perfect for the trans community because, I mean, it's almost a rite of passage to put up and it's actually gotten to the point where it's cliche. There's the baby pictures, there's the they're not young adult. You have the kid, you have the grade school, you have the starting to question phase, you have the starting to transition phase, and then you have the today phase. And YouTube's a perfect medium for that because you can put some captions up, you can put some music to it. And then you've got a slideshow of these images, and you have this incredibly empowering, candidly, transition of this is where I started, this is where I am today, and this is how proud I am of it. Yeah. And it's incredibly powerful. So that was one place that I saw a lot of representation. And the other, and I obsess with her, and I know that Chris is about to grimace. Not grimace. Chris is about to, give me a knowing smile. Let's go with that. Okay. Ruby Rose.
Well, I love Ruby Rose.
I am obsessed with Ruby Rose. I
That's
actually
fine. I'm obsessed with Laith Ashley. So
Fair.
We all have things.
so
She doesn't know. She would die if she knew who she was.
I need a drink.
Just give me
No,
a-
trust me.
give me a
I'm gonna wait.
second.
I want you Laithh. Actually, Instagram would probably
Yeah,
be better. But
there you go.
like, she doesn't do gay Instagram.
Yeah.
If you're gay or any sort of LGBT, do Instagram. That's where we all are.
Instagram's where it's at.
I am on Instagram.
Not
Ish.
enough.
Ish.
I mean, I mostly post Legos.
yeah.
But
But Ruby Rose for me, I saw a video, and this is forever ago. It's actually
So
sorry.
wait,
Go ahead.
So this
is this right? Is this
Ruby Rose is actress, right?
Yes,
There's like
she was on Orange Is the New Black. She was in John Wick 2. She just was cast as Batwoman for the new CW
good.
show.
Okay, I want to make sure I had the right. She's trans.
She's not trans. She's gender fluid.
Okay.
She's female assigned at birth.
I want to make sure I had the right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
is this
She was
this Laith Ashley? Who's this? What's special? I don't.
just go down an
Just
Instagram
keep looking at
hole
his
while we
pictures.
talk.
We'll talk.
So
Wait, is he trans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
So
There we go. There it is. Hey.
Don't even talk to me about how good looking trans boys are.
Oh my god.
But so
If you'll
Ruby
excuse
was
me.
assigned Ruby was assigned female at birth, so I don't
Yeah.
want to put out any weird rumors or anything. Assigned female at birth,
We're not that big. Don't
but
worry about it.
identifies as gender fluid. And I saw an incredible video. I later found out this is how she was discovered for her acting. She did a video. I can't remember the name of it. We're laughing at Chris.
I'm back.
Someone's obsessed.
A little bit.
What are we talking about?
But she did this incredible video. I'm assuming it was a wig, but she had long blonde hair. She was wearing this tight gold dress, the high heels, the bright red lipstick, like as femme
She
gets.
is a boss. Like, oh my god.
She's incredible. But this video that she did, and it was on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So the video starts with her like putting her lipstick on, finishing up for date night or whatever. And then it goes like on its head, and it's amazing. She literally just starts cutting her hair off. She jumps in the tub and starts washing off the makeup that's covering her tattoos.
I will put out there.
It's
I'm so happy she is
amazing.
Batwoman.
Oh, don't get me
Like-
started. I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Oh.
I'm so
Like,
excited.
They actually cast this is where I kind of love Greg Berlanti is like he actually cast a queer woman.
Oh my God,
as
yes.
Batwoman.
Yes.
Which blows
Which is
my
a
mind.
huge deal these days because you see a lot of straight washing or cis washing happening in media. And that's
Well, and I always say this because like a lot of people give like Greg Berlanti and Ryan Murphy crap about this because they are white cis males.
Sure.
But like I do think, especially like as I've known most gays, like we'll watch American Horror Story no matter what you put on. Depending, it
No,
doesn't-
I won't.
depending how crappy it is. Well, she's like 5 and gay.
No,
years.
but also Ryan Murphy can't write a fucking ending, so I won't watch any of his stuff.
he's also a film snob.
But like the amount
wrong.
that they're like, I just finished American Horror Story Cult.
Okay.
And I'm happy I finished it after the election, like way after,
Sure.
because like it made so much more of an impact of what Ryan Murphy had as a sort of premonition of what's happening to where we want to be and all that. And even with Pose too, whereas like I was really scared about Pose, where it was like, oh, you're gonna do like, because I've seen Paris is Burning. This queen has
Shocker.
not.
Shocker.
I've been to
but-
Paris. Does that count?
Oh my
no,
God.
but like I knew what ball culture was, and I was like, Ryan Murphy doing ball culture? I've watched Glee, I've watched American Horror Story. That's like not going to work. And the fact that it turned out the way it did is fantastic. And so I think that like, and I've actually told both trans and friends of color that have ignored the shows. I'm like, you need to watch these shows.
Sure.
You want your representation. Watch the shows. Don't be like Ryan Murphy is like blah 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 white male. Like they are trying.
Yeah.
Like they are trying to use their privilege for an advantage, not for a disadvantage.
And I want to key on that. I want to key on using the privilege because that's a really big deal. We hear a lot about, your privilege, check your privilege, all of this stuff. And I think that there is a very real opportunity for allies to use their privilege. Yeah. I have privilege. I'm not even going to joke about it. Like, I am a white, which there's just a straight advantage there.
Yeah.
I present as male at work. I have an advantage with that, as presenting as a cis male at work. I grew up in a family that didn't really need anything. There's privilege there. I want to use my privilege to help. I want to see other people use their privilege to help because there is to Chris's point, empathy that is developing, that is becoming a bigger and bigger thing, that we start to see the outrage when Scarlett Johansson gets cast as a trans male, where there is this immense shift that I truly do believe is coming, where people that are in the positions to make change are going to make these changes. Ruby Rose, again, I'm obsessed. So, she is a queer woman cast in a queer role. That Batwoman being queer is, I bet you 9 out of 10 people on the street have no clue.
Look,
they probably think she's married to Batman.
All of us gays have to do what we have been doing for years, and whether it's good or terrible, we need to watch it every week.
Absolutely.
And we have been doing it for years. We have been doing it with terrible gay films until we got things like Brokeback and Call Me by Your Name and Weekend.
Love Simon.
And mostly Weekend, and then Love Simon. Have you not seen Weekend?
I have seen Weekend.
Weekend is the Citizen Kane of gay male movies.
Sure.
I'm going to put that. I'll hit you later.
Okay.
But
I'll act like I don't like it.
But I will also say that Love, Simon was something like when my friends were like, "Well, it's just a stupid teenage movie." I was like, "This is something
That's the
I have
fucking
actually."
point.
Yeah, I'm like, "This is something I've actually been waiting 10 to 15 years for." Like, I didn't get this as a kid. I didn't get my Walk to Remember. I didn't get my fucking Notebook. Like, this is my fucking Notebook. Let me have it.
It doesn't have to be targeted to adults for it to resonate with you. Chris and I recently read a couple of books now actually, that I found incredible. Is by April Daniels, who's a trans woman, who wrote these books, Dreadnought Nemesis and Dreadnought Sovereign, which are about a trans girl who basically becomes Superwoman.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing story. And the first chapter of the first book involves Danny, the main character, going to a store all the way across town to buy nail polish. And terrified that the cashier knew what was going on and like was going to say something or do something or whatever. I've had that actual experience.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that I read that book when I was 27 and I had that experience when I was 13.
Yeah.
That I read that book in one night. I was sobbing by the end of it.
Well, and then when Pose came out, like I loved Pose. Like I was really hesitant because Ryan Murphy sometimes tends to go, but he has the showrunner of Transparent doing it.
Sure.
And I was kind of like, okay, well, I don't know how this is going to turn out. And then suddenly it's like struggling to get a season renewal. And so I see all these people on, like I'm part of a handful of gay groups on Facebook being like, POC aren't represented and blah, blah, blah. And like, not that I don't see that, but I was like, I also just like interjected. I was like, guys, like no one is watching Pose. There are no main white characters on Pose. It is all POC, trans, gay, lesbian. Like, you need to watch it. Like, support your brothers and sisters. Like, if we do not watch these shows and these movies and stuff like that, regardless of if it's a Love, Simon, or if it's a Pose, or if it's a Call Me by Your Name, like, if we don't buy the ticket and we abstain, people are going to be like, you know what? Gay doesn't make money.
Exactly. And it's something where I actually, to take an example of this, like I mentioned the Ruby Rose video, which goes through her transformation where she goes from this like knockout blonde to very androgynous. I would say probably demi boy is what I would go, which is just for me personally incredible. We've had recent news in the trans community, which was very fun. But I'm going to ignore that for the minute. I'm going to go to an Instagram post that I saw. We started talking at the very beginning about LGBTQIA+.
Yeah.
It's generally put in that order. People argue about it, whatever. It doesn't matter. The order doesn't matter. But what I saw that was really cool is an image that was put out that was a pyramid. And it was a pyramid of these letters, and the T was on the top. And the other letters were anthropomorphized or whatever, so that they had hands and they were holding up the T, and had the hashtag, won't be erased. And that to me is what this community is about, because we have this insane closeness where, as a trans person, I can feel the support of the community when I see "won't be erased" all over my Instagram feed. No. And it's not just LGBT, to be clear. I have a lot of straight friends that also supported it. But the immediacy of it. I found out about that memo on that Discord chat that I talked about earlier. And the first message was, "Holy shit, this is a thing." And then everybody else was, "We got this. We're gonna get through this. November 6th is coming.
Please,
we will move forward.
Vote. I don't give a shit if you're like, oh my god, I just don't believe in any like fucking vote. Like, god damn it.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking easy.
It's easy and it's important. And as somebody who is directly affected by this recent news, it was incredibly empowering to get the level of support and see the level of support that I had. If it and if it can make Caitlyn Jenner turn down Trump, which it did, finally.
I mean, yeah, Jesus. Like we all supported her in her transition, and something's like,
and then
I support Trump, it's fine. And then we're all like, girl.
Yeah. And then it directly affected her, and shocker, she turned around. But point being, there is a level of understanding. I recently we talked about John Barrowman briefly in
I know you
context.
You both love John Barrowman. Chris, I'm sorry, he's probably not about him. Or he might be.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Actually, that's a good point.
Tell.
But I missed his panel at Comic-Con this last year, but I watched it on YouTube. And he made a point to one of the people who asked a question. He always gets asked about queer issues. Yeah. And one of the first part of his response was, "Are you out to your parents?" And the reasoning behind the question, the reasoning behind the question was, okay, great, because I always ask that question because it matters. I'm of an older generation that fought tooth and nail to get us to where we are today. And that doesn't mean that we're done. We're going to keep fighting. The younger generation's going to keep fighting. But we need to be able to continue to move forward as a community and say, no, this is what is right. And that, first of all, spoke to me because I'm not out to my parents. But that immediately put that on the map for me. So, I need to do that. We need to move forward as a community, whether it's the L, the G, the B, the T, the I, the A. When something goes wrong, the rest of us are there to pick that community up. And that's what has been incredible for me.
And we're sliding so far backwards, like we have to really fucking fight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, along those points, like, Katie, this is something you and I were talking about earlier, that, like, being in the queer spectrum, our very existence is political. Like, in some ways, we don't have the luxury of thinking in terms of just, like, fucking fiscal policy, as an example.
We're basically born with the obligation.
Well, yeah, like, we don't have that luxury because we have to look out. We have to basically defend ourselves, which is not fair, but it's necessary, before we can even get to the other stuff. And, you know, we, the three of us collectively, still come from a place of privilege, but, you know, I think it's fair to say that the potential outcomes of what's happening politically right now affect you, Katie, more so than you or I.
Well, and I also think because we have trans sisters and brothers, and we have gay brothers and sisters who need someone to block the bullshit.
Yeah, we can be protective and we can take greater risks. We can be more outspoken than others can. I mean, if there was a couple of years where you weren't really out and I was, and I did what I could to try and speak on your behalf or to try and support you. But like from your perspective, is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Like, I mean, how do you feel on a day-to-day basis with everything that's going on?
So it's a very good question that I'm going to answer in two parts. I'm going to answer personally and I'm going to answer societally, because I think that's a word. Personally, things are getting better.
Okay.
Again, this is in large part due to privilege. I live in California. I live 40 minutes away from San Francisco. I have an amazing group of queer friends in San Francisco that have accepted me. And in LA, but I have to fly to go to LA.
She's offended.
Perpetually so.
That have accepted me as one of their own, and I am learning about myself at an exponential rate than I have in the past. I am happier than I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
I am going through, I'm enjoying the journey, which at one point I definitely wasn't doing.
Yeah.
That is from a place of privilege in a state that has great laws. Hell, I'm having a surgery in 12 months that is covered by my health insurance. Holy shit.
Can I ask bottom or top surgery?
Neither, actually. I'm having what's called facial feminization surgery. It's a cosmetic surgery for your face that changes the bone structure to make it a little bit more feminine.
Because I know that's also a question I get is like bottom, top surgery. And then I actually, until you mentioned it, did not realize facial feminization was actually a surgery. It's
a type of plastic surgery, but the results behind it are amazing. Many trans women go through it in particular. My understanding, I could be wrong, my understanding is fewer trans men do it than trans women.
Okay.
But it is also an incredibly powerful one. We haven't used this word yet, but gender dysphoria is the clinical term for the feeling that trans folk have about their physical body. And for me, that's the biggest source of that is my face, is I want my face to look more feminine.
Well, and there's always something, because like I know I've had trans friends who want to get rid of their penis. I've had trans friends who want to get rid of their breasts.
Yep.
So, and actually you are the first one I've met that wants to get the face needs to go first. And I also kind of understand that in a sense of like, I know what a female face looks like, and they tend to be more narrow and stuff like that. And so like, I'm glad you can do that.
Yeah, and like I said, I come from an incredible place of privilege. I will make this shout out to Kaiser Permanente, who covers literally every single trans issue has been covered. They have covered an out of the network therapist for me. They cover the testosterone blockers that I'm on. They cover facial surgery. They cover top surgery. They cover bottom surgery. They are incredible, and they are ahead of their time when it comes to transgender medical issues.
Also, if they're BS on the psychological side, I have a very good therapist that does trans and LGBTQ
there you
individuals.
Boom, there we go.
So
therapy, it's an amazing thing.
I'm happy to recommend you to her because she's happy to take your money and is also fantastic at what she does. Like she was the one where it was like in a sense where a few months ago I was like, oh, I'm going to Decadence, Southern Decadence, to like be with all the gay men in like New Orleans, and she went, oh my god, me too, with my brother. I was like, oh god, if I see you really fucked up, I'm so sorry. We're not talking about it in the next section. I'm sorry.
I had the interesting experience of my therapist coming out as trans during my therapy.
Oh my god.
Like probably a year into my therapy, which I'm like, you understand so well. But sorry, Chris, I know to go back to your question.
I will also like put in like perspective, like it is such like my therapist, the way she has a gay brother.
Sure.
So like, and I'm sure like with your therapist being trans, like it makes such a difference. Like
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, like gay doctors make such the difference. And so if you can find one, like even like my regular practitioner is a lesbian. Like,
Yes.
Like I was like, I need prep. She's like, oh, okay. Do you get like, we'll test you every month and we'll do this and that and like it's fine. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, I'm glad you get it. She's like, I'm glad you understand what it means. I'm like, good. Like it makes. I don't think people understand how much of a difference it makes.
It
like
absolutely makes a difference.
Like a LGBT doctor of any sort.
100%. And I went to my therapist, Harper, because they specialized in gender. And that was a thing. And I came out to my brother while I was seeing Harper, and his wife works in the medical field. And he, being an older brother, is like, well, let's get a second opinion. Is there another therapist? So she went and got recommendations. Number one on the list was my therapist, Harper.
Yes!
So I'm like, yes, that's right. I did my research. So for me, it's been a very positive, uplifting time. To answer my second part of Chris's question, societally, it's a mixed bag. We have an administration which has taken trans issues in particular back. And candidly, I see that as a slippery slope, not just for trans issues, but for LGBT as a whole.
Yeah.
I think you're entirely right.
So there is a lot of negative there. I'm a bit of an optimist.
Thank God one of us is.
I almost said poptimist, which is
right?
really weird, but I don't know what that is.
That's the point of being so like poppy and effervescent and
She's
bubbly.
so lucky.
I'm taking that. I'm going
She's
to
a
use that from now on.
All right. Anyway.
I'm an optimist, so I look at the other half. I look at the response to these things. I look at the response that I get text messages when that memo came out saying, "We got you." I see the protests in the streets that are continuously happening. I see these things, and I understand that at the end of the day, November 6th is what matters. So I'm going to say this directly. People talk about, oh yeah, I'm an ally. I'm there for you. I'm going to wear purple on coming out day.
It. Get my pre-chat.
This is how you can be an ally. It's not about wearing a color on a day. It's not about being there for somebody to talk to you. It's about action. And at the end of the day, the action is how you vote, how your voice is heard, and the things that you say. Because you can very easily say, I'm an ally, I support LGBT, I have a gay friend. Great.
Yeah.
That means nothing
Unless you vote.
Unless you pay attention to these issues, unless it matters to you. Because it's very easy to be complacent and say, this doesn't affect me. Then you're not a fucking ally. You might not be an enemy, and but you cannot call yourself an ally if you say this doesn't affect me, because then you are not an ally.
True.
You are neutral at best and complacent at worst.
Yep. So I have one question left.
Yeah.
And that is because gay men are at the forefront of LGBTQ actions. How can we support you?
Yeah.
So I go back to what I said a moment ago. Vote. And I think that the LGBT community is doing an amazing job of holding each other up.
We're also not always voting, so that's why I'm asking that.
So vote. Please vote.
Please vote.
Can I go into ASMR mode?
Yeah.
Vote. You will vote. Vote. Make your voices heard. We're in California where, candidly, there's not we're in parts of California where it's sure, you can say the words, oh, my vote doesn't really matter. Don't care. Go vote.
Still vote.
Yeah.
Still go
You
vote.
need to.
Have your voice be heard. You know, when you see somebody who maybe isn't, and again, passing versus presenting, but we're going to put that aside, who you can quote unquote clock as trans, do not go up to them and tell them that they're so brave. Please don't do that.
Your rights are
Please
here
don't do
because
that.
of a trans POC woman who threw a brick through a window.
Accurate.
Just wanted to let you all know that that's what Stonewall actually was.
Yep. Don't go talk about how brave that person is. Treat her or him like the person that they are. And be the ally. And by ally, I mean you have to be active. And that is the best way that you can support myself as a trans person, other trans people, and candidly, our LGBTQIA plus community as a whole.
Well, so, Katie, thank you for coming in and sharing
Absolutely.
your story, because like we said, it's incredibly important to get someone
I'm
else's
very happy we
perspective.
could do this episode.
Thank
Yeah,
you. No, it was
Especially with
a,
like the bullshit that's going on.
it was a
Yeah.
happy coincidence, and I'm glad to be here.
But I mean, if people want to like reach out and hear more of your story or just know more about you, like where can they find you?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram that is mostly for cosplay, but sometimes for other stuff that you can go ahead and follow or send questions to at KT. That's the initials KT _ Giordano, GIORDANO. That's mostly my cosplay stuff, as well as a little bit of my just trans journey. A lot of it came about as I was learning how to apply makeup and things like that. Also, if you would like, I do stream video games because I'm a total nerd. So if you are interested in watching like Destiny or Fortnite or other games that I play, you can find me at twitch.tv/mxwolf.
Awesome. Well, I'm not going to tell you that you're brave,
I'm also
but I'm going to tell you that I love you and I'm glad you're here.
I love you guys too.
Thanks for listening to Gay at 4. The podcast is produced by Chris Lord and Jonathan James and edited by Chris Lord. Music by Chris Humans and Colin Diaz. Artwork by Cameron Dexter. Please subscribe and review on iTunes. Follow the podcast at Gay at Forward on Instagram and YouTube, and at Gay at Forward Pod on Facebook and Twitter. Got an idea for an episode? Send us an email at gayatforwardpod@gmail.com. Thanks and stay fabulous.